So when we go back to the idea of first grade and second grade, when we first started learning about sentences, then we generally talked about nouns and pronouns being needed in the subject of the sentence. Well, when you got a little bit older, then we started adding some information to it. We could have a prepositional phrase in the subject of our sentence. We could have an article adjective. We could just have adjectives, all of which are going to describe the subject, and therefore the subject is telling me what the sentence is about. Right? So our subject is always going to include a noun or a pronoun, but also tell me the extra information of what that sentence is about, such as this: the 3-year-old boy. So boy is the noun, so that is the focus. That's the subject noun. That's the focus of the subject for our sentence. But I have a couple other things there. I have the, which is what we call an article adjective. I have 3-year-old, which tells me how old the boy is. Who is 3 years old? The boy. So 3-year-old is an adjective. We could have something simple as my teacher. So we have a possessive pronoun describing teacher. So teacher is my noun, it's my subject. The entire subject, though, is my teacher because my tells me whose teacher we're talking about. The predicate then is where our verbs come into play. So we have verbs, we'll have prepositional phrases, we'll have adverbs, we'll have the extra information that tells me about the subject we just talked about. So the 3-year boy did what? Well, the 3-year boy started to scream. Started to scream is the predicate. It's where the verb is, and it tells me what the subject did. My teacher is nice. Try not to choke on that one. Is a verb. We don't think of it as showing action because it is a linking verb. Is what is nice. So we have our complete predicate at the end of our sentence. Each of those are independent clauses. They are So we're going to look at 4 specific sentences here. Once again, these are what we call independent clauses because they are a sentence that can stand on their own. And I'm going to walk you through how we can identify the difference between a subject and a predicate. So if you're listening, you might make some extra notes. This is not one of the notes that I'm asking you to have in class, but it might help you as you are going along. If I go too fast, all you have to do is pause the video and you'll be good to go to write it down and then unpause it and you continue to watch. When we read a sentence and we're trying to figure out what is the subject and what is the verb, we ask some basic questions. First, we read the sentence: the crowd grew quiet. Well, I'm going to ask who or what did the verb or did the predicate. So who grew quiet? The crowd. So I know that the crowd is my subject. I have an article adjective the, but crowd is my subject noun. The crowd is my subject. Then I state the subject and I ask what verb they're doing. So the crowd did what? Well, the crowd grew quiet. That's going to show the action of the subject. So I know that grew quiet is going to be my predicate. So we underline the subject once, we underline the complete predicate twice. When I go to sentence 2, the flock of geese flew south. Well, the verb is flew, so what flew south? Well, that would be the flock of geese. What is being said about the flock of geese? The flock of geese did what? They flew south. So the flock of geese is my subject. Flew south is my predicate. On the third one, it says, she lost her ring. Who lost her ring? She. So see, she is my only word that I have in my subject. What did she do? She lost her ring. So lost her ring is my predicate. And then our longest sentence, the driver of the van forgot to yield. Who forgot to yield? The driver of the van. So that whole piece there is my subject. We have of the van, which is a prepositional phrase. We haven't gotten into those yet. We will eventually. But it's going to be included in the subject because it's telling me about the driver. He is the driver of the van. The action then is, what did the driver of the van do? Well, they forgot to yield, which is not good. So we underline that twice because that is my complete predicate. So when I look at the idea of a simple sentence, then I just have these individual parts that are separated from one another. And that's fine for second, third, maybe even fourth grade. But then when we become fifth and sixth graders, right, we become big boys and big girls. And therefore, we should be writing the way we talk. We don't talk in simple sentences, right? So we want to be able to write the way we talk, which is more details, mixing some information together to make ourselves sound a little bit smarter. So when I mix those two together, if I have two independent clauses, then I can end up with what is called a compound sentence. So the example they're giving here is when I have salt and when I have water and I mix them together, I get a mixture. I get a compound, which is salt water, right? So I'm putting two things together that can go together naturally to create a different substance. I'm going to take two independent clauses, I'm going to mix them together, and I'm going to get one compound sentence. So when I look at these compound sentences, then I have to understand that I am joining. It's kind of like the atoms of salt and the atoms of water mixing together to make a molecule of salt water. I'm going to mix these two independent clauses together. How do I connect them? I'm going to connect them with what? So when we see these examples of compound sentences that are joined together with conjunctions, then I can focus in on just the separate pieces to see, is it truly a compound sentence? Because once again, a compound sentence is going to connect two independent clauses together. Meaning, if I take these different parts of a sentence, I want to ask myself, could they stand alone all by themselves? Could I look at my parents and say, hey, we rode our bikes to the store, period? Yeah, absolutely. That's information. But generally, parents like to know more information. Well, why did you do that, right? So we look at the second part, we bought some candy. Is that a complete thought? It is. And if I was in third grade, I might communicate in my writing that way. We rode our bikes to the store, we bought some candy, and I start making this list of everything we did, and then it gets kind of boring. So we start making these compound sentences to put these ideas together. Because we rode our bikes to the store and we bought some candy. So I've now taken two thoughts, put them together to make myself sound smarter because I am smart because I'm a big boy or a big girl and I can relate my information in a compound sentence. What is my conjunction? Well, my conjunction is the word and, right? So I have to have a conjunction that's going to connect my two independent clauses. Let's look at the second one. I enjoy watching football. I could put a period there, and that is a very simple statement, right? It's an independent clause. I don't enjoy playing football. Well, that is also an independent clause. That would be a sentence that I could put all by myself. But I'm going to put them together and make a big sentence. I'm going to make myself sound as smart as I really am. I enjoy watching football, but I don't enjoy playing football. So I have two complete thoughts separated by a conjunction. The conjunction is but. So when I start looking at these conjunctions, these particular conjunctions are called coordinating conjunctions. And what that means is they coordinate two thoughts together. Sometimes they're opposing thoughts, sometimes they are supporting thoughts. And which one of my coordinating conjunctions I use will determine which way I want my sentence to go. Right? So we have 7 basic coordinating conjunctions. So when I look at my notes, I have an area to write those. But we use what we call a mnemonic device. So if you can remember fanboys, then you're going to remember your 7 coordinating conjunctions rather easily. So when it comes to mnemonic devices, what that means is it's just a simple way of remembering important information, right? So we've in math have given the sentence, ask for several extra presents from my dear Aunt Sally, which takes me through all the steps of the order of operations. I could have to remember Well, first I have to do absolute values and square roots and exponents and parentheses. And then I have to look at the math functions once I've done all of those steps. And I have to do all multiplication and division going from left to right. And then I have to finish up by doing all the addition and subtraction by going from left to right. That gets to be a lot that you have to remember all in one big description of how I do the order of operations. Where, if I file it into my filing cabinet in my mental capacity area called my brain, as ask for several extra presents for my dear Aunt Sally, and I can remember what each of those letters stand for, then my remembering happens a lot easier, and I don't have to remember all of that information in one long, run-on, complicated sentence. Same idea with fanboys. I don't have to remember every single one of those. If I can remember what conjunctions are, and then I can remember fanboys, well, the beginning of the letters tell me which the conjunction is. So the F is for, the A is and, the N is nor. The B is but, the O is or, the Y is yet, and the S is so. So those are the very most common coordinating conjunctions that we use, really up until you get to probably your sophomore, junior, senior year, where you really have more in-depth transitions building into compound and complex sentences. But it's an easy way to remember those because they are the most common and the easiest ones to use. So we've looked at two of them, so let's look at these two sentences. Sadie drank a glass of water, yet she was still thirsty. Right? So my independent clauses, sentences that can stand alone, Sadie drank a glass of water. Basic information, it has a subject, it has a verb, it makes complete sense, it has capital letter. If I put a period, then it would have my punctuation. She was still thirsty. Still an independent clause. It makes a complete sentence. But I want to make sure that people understand that I'm no longer in second and third grade. So I put those together with a coordinating conjunction. Yet. She drank a glass of water, yet she was still thirsty, indicating that the glass of water wasn't enough to quench her thirst. On 4, we can look at it, it says, you can draw a picture, comma, or you can read a book. Two independent clauses that can truly stand alone, but I'm no longer in second and third grade, so I want to make these compound sentences so people can understand that I've grown up a little bit and can go more in depth in my writing. So I can draw a picture or you can read a book. Which do you want to do? You can draw, you can read, you can read, you can draw. It's up to you. Or tells you that you have a choice between two different things. So on your paper then, you're going to have 5 and 6. Make sure that you're following along and you're able to do these. Mom's car had a flat tire, so we missed the first half of the play. You are to underline the independent clauses and circle the conjunction. So you can go ahead and do that on your paper, give it a shot. If you're on the digital form, then you just need to drag the circle around the coordinating conjunction and use the underline tool for the sentence. But pause the video, come back and check your work. So hopefully you tried it and hopefully you found this to be extremely easy because it's meant to be. So hopefully you underlined mom's car had a flat tire. It's a complete thought. It is an independent clause. And then you should have underlined we missed the first half of the play because that isn't complete thought and an independent clause. We put them together to make us sound like big boys and big girls, and therefore you should have circled so because that is your coordinating conjunction. Hopefully on number 6 you underlined I don't like lettuce, and then you underlined do I like tomatoes, and then you should have circled nor. So nor indicates that there's neither of those things that I like. You're not into salads, obviously. So when we look at those, did you notice something that was always with my coordinating conjunction? I'm hoping that you did. You should have. We always put a comma. So a comma will always come before a coordinating conjunction. Notice I emphasize that. It's in your notes. you need to know it. There's always a comma in front of our coordinating conjunctions to make our compound sentences. For the example, Mom's car had a flat tire. We had a comma in front of. So now it is time for your assignment. So on the back side of your notes, you will find, or if you're doing digital copy because you are quarantined at home, you will find on the second page. You will find where you're going to answer 5 different questions. I give you a sentence and I need you to write, is it a simple sentence or a compound sentence? The only words you need to write is simple or compound. So you have one question about pepperoni. You have one about 5 runs and a game. You have one about soured milk. You have one about teams to cheer for. And then you have one about mom and your stuffed animals. Then the next few questions, I would like you to take the 2 independent clauses and make them a compound sentence. Be sure to use the correct punctuation and one of the fanboy conjunctions to make a complete and correct sentence. So you have these 3 to go through. I will collect this from you tomorrow morning, so please be sure that you do it for a participation grade. And then, in case you're interested and you want to make sure you are correct, the answers are after these blank slides.